We will hear a brief presentation, followed by questions from board members and questions from the public, if there are any. Dr. Murillo, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. LaPerla. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Dean Wilson, our CFO, to the podium. I don't know, John, if that's me or if it's,
Somebody.
yeah. And Dean's going to present, oh, it's you, it's Chris.
Chris.
Yeah. Oh, that is not good.
More
especially
times.
with the.
You know what? I will just leave it on and I won't touch it.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Wilson, the floor is yours.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Board. Every May, we discuss the amended budget for the current year. This is actually what we're amending, so this is for the 22-23 year, the year that we're in. As the slide shows, Iowa Code requires a formal budget amendment if expenses are going to exceed what we budgeted or what we showed on our budget about a year ago. This is mainly a compliance issue that even if we're $1 over on our expenses than what we budgeted, we're going to get an audit finding. But it's something we have to do, so this is why we're here today. This budget encompasses all of our funds except Fund 91, which is our agency funds. And as I said, failure to do so will result in an audit finding. The proposed tax amendment has no impact on property taxes. It's not going to raise any more or less money. Anticipated revenue changes are not part of this. It's only for expenditures, which I find a little odd, but that's state law. And as always, actual results will vary from this budget amendment. So what the trick is to try to get the amendment high enough so you don't get an audit finding. It's essentially what we're looking at. So this is what was published in the Nonpareil about 10 days ago. Total support, so we have three areas here. We have total support services, non-instructional programs, and total other expenditures. The total support services is basically an increase due to additional facilities maintenance work and tech services cost. And then I put an extra 4.5 million in there. There's also other expenditures in there for, could be anything from the business office to transportation, other things like that. Non-instructional programs, that is simply the nutrition fund. And I've increased that about 250,000 because we are experiencing higher than anticipated food costs and related supplies. And then total other expenditures, the 8.2 million, is due to year-end payments that we likely will have to make for the Early Learning Center, the Kingsville renovation, and possibly some other construction issues. I don't think that our expenditures are going to increase by that amount of money, but as I said, the trick is to get it high enough so we don't get an audit finding. And with that, I will open it up for discussion from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Milborn to join me at the podium. Mr. Milborn is going to walk through the proposed revisions to our 23-24 school calendar.
Zoom in as we're talking.
Separate public hearings?
Get to close.
Yeah, we probably should do it that way.
And do public comment.
And Ms. Ostrowski, do we have any members of the public request time this evening for the either public hearing? No. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So we will go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget, amended budget, and open the public hearing on the proposed revisions to the 2023-2024 school calendar.
Yeah.
Mr.
thank you.
Milborn.
Now we will walk through those.
All right, thank you. I'm happy to present this calendar. This is a revised calendar after much collaboration with Labor Management Committee, Superintendent's Roundtable, as well as feedback opportunities from parents, guardians, and staff. We're presenting some changes to you that takes advantage of the new flexibility provided by Iowa Chapter 12 and provides a kind of a more balanced approach to periodic vacation days. And so a few changes that we're proposing would be, we would have teachers report one day earlier, and that'd be August 17th. That helps them not come back after the Memorial holiday for just one day at the very end of the year. and teachers and staff were very supportive of that change. Then we go through our first semester, basically stays the same, and the bigger changes come in the second semester. So that next change would be we move the workday to January 2nd. There's a school district around us that does that often, and we hear that quite a bit from our teachers. We ease back in from winter vacation by having that workday. It's right towards the end of the semester where they can compile grades and do some staff development. You'll notice that January 15th and February 19th are holidays. Those have been non-school days in the past, but they haven't been district holidays district-wide. And then really the one that we got tons of exciting feedback on would be that spring break in March there. So we used the trade day and moved that down from the 22nd, we moved it there, and then we were able to add a few days off there to give a week-long spring break. And then in April, we've put a placeholder there right now for a possible remote learning day. We want it to be a remote day, but they're still writing the regulations on Chapter 12. We think the intent was mostly around snow days or inclement weather days. However, we would really like to use that day to dig into maybe Iowa assessments and some map data and feed us forward for our school improvement planning for the next school year. And then lastly, we would have students and staff end on the 24th. Lots of really great feedback from Council Bluffs staff members. We also sent feedback out to parents and guardians. We got about 30 people that reached back out and asked some clarifying questions. They were all in love with the spring break for the most part, but the concerns were around the remote days for inclement weather and or snow days. A lot of that centered on, will the teacher be able to engage them and interact with them? And from there, we clarified that this will be work that's put into Google Classroom, and it'll be independent work assigned to students prior. So they'll be reading, they'll be engaging in the materials in Google Classroom, but they will not be trying to do kind of the hybrid remote instructional thing that we did during the pandemic. This calendar also has at least three late starts built into it, so we could call 3 2-hour late starts if needed, but any of the inclement weather or snow days would be remote.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? So essentially what we're doing is taking the 3 snow days that were built into the calendar previously. We're now able to take those 3 snow days and use them as remote learning days, which allows, it's not like we just shortened the school year. We were able to do that because the Chapter 12 regulations have allowed for those remote learning on snow days.
Yeah. Same amount of student learning minutes and or days, and same amount of teacher work days.
And we really kind of banked those 3 days.
Right.
Instead of, they weren't already in the calendar,
Right.
we were banking them at the end, so that when we took a snow day, we had a day
You didn't have
to replace it
Add
with.
on to the school year.
That's correct. And so now we can take those 3 days and put them inside the school year, which gave us the opportunity to have a full spring break week.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we didn't have any members of the public request time on the calendar. So I will go ahead and close the public hearings and open the regular business meeting of the Council Bluffs Community School District Board of Education. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Kazire. Present. Mr. Arthur.
Here.
Ms. Shudek.
Here.
Ms. Myers.
Here.
Mr. Peters.
Here.
Mr. Tripp.
Here.
Mr. LaFurla.
Present. And now, if you will, please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of our agenda. Is there a motion?
I can move approval of the agenda.
Thank you.
And second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the agenda's been approved. Next, we have approval of our minutes of the workshop meeting of May 9th, 2023. Is there a motion?
I can move to approve the meetings of the workshop approve the minutes of the workshop meeting from May 9th, 2023 as presented.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes have been approved. Next is public participation. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board regarding agenda items or other matters of concern. Did we have anybody request time this evening? That's strange. We have a room full of people. Okay. We will move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Murillo?
Thank you, Mr. LaFurla. Before we begin our superintendent's report, I wanted to take just a minute. I know when you came in, you found certificates at your desks from IASB. To thank the board members. This is our month that we recognize our board members and the service that they provide and support of the district. And I just want to say thank you. And on behalf of the district, we thank you for giving of your time and being a part and supporting us and the work that we do. And I really appreciate how our school board members show up at events and support our schools, and just really thankful that you guys are part of our district. So thank you. And now I'll invite Ms. Ostrowski. She is going to lead us through our staff and student recognitions. And Mr. LaFurla, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I see all them stars
Yeah, it is a
over
very
there.
full table.
It's a
and-
very full table. So are you ready to help me?
Yes.
All right.
Right.
Diane?
Well, we're very thankful to our Council Bluffs Schools Foundation for sponsoring our staff and student recognition program. They allow us to provide mementos for these accomplishments that students can take with them and hold proudly and display at their high school graduation parties. So we'll start first with, speaking of graduation, 4 of our seniors who were Iowa Governor Scholars. 4 members from both Abraham Lincoln High School and Thomas Jefferson were honored in April at a ceremony hosted by Governor Kim Reynolds. This is part of the Governor Scholar Recognition Program. It recognizes only about 400 students statewide, and so we are very proud to have among them, because of their excellence during their high school careers, our Iowa Governor Scholars, Ben Banta from Abraham Lincoln. Ben? And we'll ask each person, as I call your name, to come on up for a photo and your trophy. That'd be great. There's 4 of this group. And Jennifer Rangel Mendoza from Abraham Lincoln. From Thomas Jefferson, Asa Neville. And Fee Wynn.
No?
We will make sure they get their honors. And all 4 of these students were part of our early college academy, so we're very proud of them for also having earned their associate's degrees from Iowa Western a week before they got their high school diplomas. Congratulations. Take care. We're so pleased tonight also to introduce you to 2 students who represented our TradeWorks program proudly at the Skills USA State Student Leadership and Skills Conference in Des Moines in April. The annual event gives students the opportunity to put their technical skills to the test in over 50 career competition categories. Congratulations to Marissa Tompkins, who earned a bronze medal in related technical math. Marissa, please join us up front. And also Larissa Ferris, who earned a gold and an invitation to the national competition to be held in Atlanta in mid-June for her occupational job interview. Larissa? Mr. McGarren and Mr. Clausen, would you join us up front for a photo? And both of these students will be attending the national conference along with instructors Nate Clausen and Terrence McGarren. And we look forward to having you represent Council Bluffs in our community school district proudly. Congratulations on your Skills USA. And Mr. McGarren shared that we had 12 students attend and compete in the conference this year, so we're proud of them. And that's up threefold from last year's 4. So we'll keep growing that number. All right, we're pleased tonight also to have the opportunity to recognize Kern and Abraham Lincoln High School students who won honors at the State History Day competition. Because of this success, 3 of them will represent Kern and our school community and Abraham Lincoln at the National History Day competition to be held in mid-June. The theme this year is Frontiers in History, People, Places, Ideas. Dutch Smith qualified with the senior historical paper. Dutch? No? Okay. Leela Good qualified with her senior individual performance. And Mrs. Masker's tried to sneak up here to take pictures. Kaya Schleifman and Chloe Carter both earned an alternate spots with their senior group website. Kaya and Chloe? Are you? Anna Johnson's junior individual documentary qualified her for the National History Fair. Abby Nelson and Adrian Stotts earned alternate spots with their junior group exhibit. I want to congratulate all these student historians and their coach, Deborah Masker, on your honor, Mrs. Masker, as the Patricia Bering Outstanding Secondary Teacher for the History Day. Congratulations also to the parents for your support of this project. Okay, she said, all right. Congratulations. Next, it's been another really busy robotics season here in the Council Bluffs Schools. We're proud of the successes of our teams at all levels, with 5 teams representing us well at the World's competition in April. Thanks to the coaches, parents, and sponsors for your part in the success of our teams. First, I'd like to introduce the Junior ROTC team of cadets who were state quarterfinalists and Amaze Award winners and earned an invitation to compete at the VEX World's National Championship. They are Cadet Noah Welsh, Cadet Dara Pitch, Cadet Dalton McCormick, and Cadet Xander Rowland. And coaches, please join us up for the photo. We're very proud of you and your leadership of this great team. And they already turned in their uniforms, so they've got matching jean jackets. I love it. Congratulations. The following 4 teams qualified for the VEX IQ World's Robotic Championship competition. This Carter Lake team won the Division I Excellence Award to qualify. The members are Kenley Aldmeyer, Walker Jacoby, Charlie Moore, would coaches like to join us for the photo? And we have, yeah, we'll do that. And we have another Carter Lake team. Do you want to do those at the same time? Okay, we have another Carter Lake team. All right, Elijah Cudd, please join us to be recognized. This team with Elijah won the Division I Teamwork Champion and Judges Awards. Jackson Giles. And Naomi Johnson. All right, coaches. Yeah. Bring forward just a little. Maybe 2 rows of students here. Go ahead and go in front of your kid. Go in just a little bit, hon. The paparazzi. Okay. Carter Lake Love, huh? Our middle school junior Lynx team earned the title of Division I Robot Skills Champion. They are Aiden Dighton. Elliot Heckman.
Any relationship?
Mason Jens. And our College View representative on the middle school team is Lucy Wolf. Lucy. Aren't those shirts great? Hey. Picture time. Oh, where's our coach? Coach is Mr. Hickman and Mrs. Deitman. Yeah, I know you are. Sorry. There you go. That's perfect. Thank you. Congratulations. Our middle school junior Jackets team earned the Teamwork Champion Award. Members include Braylon Bovey. No? Let's see. Is that him? Oh. Miles LaBaugh. Ashley Ronk. Softball, lots of softball tonight, right? And am I missing a couple of names? No, are they here to represent? Okay. All right, I'm going to ask Mrs. Arthur to come up too and help me with that one. So, are you the only member of your team? That's okay, let's get a picture. Yeah, we'll stay up here. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I must have messed up, so let's say the names of the award-winning team and we'll get you your stars.
All right, so we have,
Please, thank you.
all right, so the next team is 2501Z, and they're the Backstreet Bots. Tonight we have Aiden Hector, and we have Isaiah Burgett. Oh, Matt's supposed to go.
Colette, yeah? And I want to thank Mrs. Christy Arthur for helping me coordinate all these wonderful awards. And she sent it to me, and I missed the last email. So we are very proud of you, and we'll get you your stars. It's a good problem to have too many recipients, right? Okay. Oh, yes, thank you. And we'd like to give a shout out to our 21st Century Grant that is making a lot of these after-school programs possible so students can take advantage and learn and grow together and make us proud. All right, congratulations. It's time for our Employees of the Year to be recognized. And we are very pleased tonight to celebrate 3 individuals who really embody the mission of our community school district. And we are very proud that they're representing us on the larger stage as our Employees of the Year. First of all, I'd like to recognize our Principal of the Year, Mrs. Amanda Jens. Mrs. Jens? I'm going to read a little bit about you, Mrs. Jens, and I know you're supported here by your family and friends and coworkers. So, Amanda is a leader who shows empathy for students, parents, and staff. She has high expectations for everyone in the school community. She's committed to seeing the students, parents, and staff succeed and is a charismatic leader who leads with what is best for students. Amanda is also a strategic leader who's organized and works collaboratively with others to ensure current displays continuous improvement. Academic achievement under your leadership continues to grow, and we're very proud of that. Finally, Amanda works tirelessly and is a model for all, so everyone can be the best versions of themselves. Hashtag the Lynx Way. Congratulations. There you go. Okay. And afterwards, we'll invite you to get your picture taken out by the banner, too, so don't leave too fast. Okay, congratulations. And I'll pause for a moment to say our Employees of the Year, again, the recognition program sponsored by our Council of Schools Foundation allows us to present not only these beautiful trophies for them to display, but also a $500 check from our Schools Foundation. So that's really amazing. Thank you to the foundation. Our licensed staff member of the year is Shelby Graves, fourth grade teacher at Edison Elementary. Shelby. She is joined here tonight too by her family and boyfriend, and we're glad, and coworkers, and we're glad to have you here. Shelby Graves dedicates the effort, time, and passion to help our students achieve more. She starts every year strong, focused on building classroom community and throughout the year. She brings wisdom and engagement to her classroom, working hard in and out of school to make sure Edison is a safe and caring place. As the head girls basketball coach for TJ, she has her team members visit the school to interact with students, teaching them about why it's important to stay active and work hard in school so they can maybe play on her team someday. Shelby is on the principal advisory team and the foundations team at school, and they go above and beyond to make sure the school community is connected. She's an outstanding example of a professional willing to put her time and effort in so that students can grow and achieve more. Congratulations, Shelby. Congratulations. And as they say, last but not least, our support staff member of the year is Paul Ahrens, paraeducator at Abraham Lincoln High School. Paul, would you join Dr. Murillo up front? We're pleased that Paul brought his family with him tonight and has other members of the AL staff here to celebrate him as well. You had 8 nominations, sir. So you're loved in your building. So I'm just going to share just a few of them. We'd be here all night. All right. Paul is a shining beacon of light in our hallways, classrooms, and events. His friendly presence and intentionality in building relationships truly improves the classroom experience for every student in the room with him. Paul is often seen at extracurricular activities, popping popcorn and sharing his smile, and you're heading out to the concession stand right after this. Mr. Ahrens approaches any situation with calmness, kindness, and with an attitude of finding a solution. He always maintains patience and nurturing attitude and works to get the best from students as their advocate. Paul also forms effective work relationships with staff, which also enhances student learning. He's a model professional, bringing a positive presence and making a tremendous impact on the students and our school community. Congratulations, Paul. Okay. That concludes our recognition, Mr. LaFerlin and Dr. Murillo. And of the year recipients, I'd invite you out. And all of the fans.
That concludes our report.
Before we move on to the informational presentations, I just want to say another congratulations to all of our talented students and dedicated teachers and staff of the school district, we're all very proud of our students and staff. And I'm also very proud that many years ago, before many of us were on the school board, the board took the step of ensuring that this group takes time out of monthly board meetings to recognize our accomplishments of our students and recognize our staff for the hard work that goes unnoticed many times. So thank you and congratulations to all of the individuals that were recognized this evening.
Thank you, Mr. LaFurla. And as my final presentation this evening, I'm going to invite Ms. Ostrowski back to the podium. We will be having our MOAC Education Ambassadors will be presenting this evening. I am so proud of these three teachers that we have and the work that they've done over this school year, being ambassadors for the Council Bluffs Schools. So, Ms. Ostrowski, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I have the pleasure tonight of introducing you to Tyler McGee, Andrea Galloway, and Caitlin Haller, all of whom represented us as MOAC Educational Ambassadors. And tonight we are pleased to get to hear from them about their experience and learn a little bit more about what the MOAC Ambassador Program is about. I'll have them introduce themselves as they present and share where they work and how long they've been here. Tyler, I'll have you start us off.
Thank you, Diane. Like Diane said, my name is Tyler McGee, and I've been teaching Council Bluffs for 7.5 years. I'm currently an 8th grade social studies teacher at Kern Middle School. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about our experience as MOAC Education Ambassadors. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'll talk a little bit about what is a MOAC Education Ambassador, and then we'll talk about why did we meet, what were our goals, how the program worked, and then kind of some final reflections for us as well. So first question, the logical question, is what is a MOAC Education Ambassador? And so what it is, oh, I forgot to mention too, that the program was facilitated by former Council Bluffs Superintendent Dr. Bruckner as well. But MOAC is a year-long leadership group that included 45 classroom teachers across 12 different metro area school districts, and each one of our ambassadors was selected by their local superintendent. Our mission was to, and it continues to be, about flipping the conversation around education and working to promote the teaching profession. One way that we did this was through the book Heart that we read, and Caitlin will talk a little bit more about that, but we use this to kind of guide a lot of our reflections and a lot of our discussions. And then we also talked a lot about some of the shifts that we can do to really help to address the teacher shortage, and we're going to talk about that tonight as well. I'll turn it over.
I'm Andrea Galloway. I've been teaching in Council Bluffs for 13 years. I'm at Thomas Jefferson High School, and I teach science. And when we met, each time we talked about different shifts to try to address the teacher shortage. So we were looking at different ways that we can be part of the solution to retaining teachers as well as recruiting new teachers. And so there are 5 shifts to address the teacher shortage that we read about. The first one is to create pathways to careers in education. Part of that is reducing barriers into getting into education in the first place. And we've seen the state of Iowa has already been part of that by, for example, removing the basic skills test. So that's not a financial barrier for someone who's looking to go into education. And we see our district doing this as well, both with our D+1 pathway that gets people into early childhood education if they're showing interest in that when they're in high school, as well as our program that's funded through a grant that allows for our paras to get certified as teachers for the wonderful work they're already doing in school and then eventually earning their license. And the second one is to design comprehensive human capital management systems, which is a whole bunch of words that I know what they mean separately, but when you put them together, sound like a puzzle. But really that has to do with providing resources for teachers, support for teachers, leadership opportunities for teachers, as well as leadership role models for teachers. And so this is finding the leaders within your building and finding ways to empower them, managing people well. And I think one thing that Council Bluffs does really well with this, in my experience, is the mentoring program for new teachers. I remember when I first started in Council Bluffs, Lori Thomas was my mentor at TJ, and I was not just new to teaching, I was new to Council Bluffs. I didn't know anybody, so just having somebody whose room I could go to every day and just kind of share and bounce ideas off of and just to encourage me was very meaningful. The third one is to establish transparent and equitable total reward systems. This is the one that's about salary, benefits, other sorts of incentives. This is the one that we spent the least amount of time talking about because we know we don't enter the education field for money, and we also know that much of this is beyond our control. Like the finances that come to districts come from the state, and so there's only so much that we can do in this particular realm, and I've always felt like our board has done a great job in showing us that they appreciate us with in this particular area. And the one that we did spend probably the most time on was shift number 4, which is to strengthen a sense of purpose, belonging, and connection. Because I felt like, and I think these guys agree, that this was the one that at the district level, as well as at the building level and at the teacher level, we have a lot of control over because we have the ability to give people voice, to give teachers choice and autonomy, and to just build a sense of community where hopefully your building starts to feel like a team. And if you're really lucky, it starts to feel like a family. And just teachers knowing that what they do matters every day. Almost every single group that did their project focused on this particular shift. So I think that's one that means a lot to teachers. And the last one, which I apologize, it's kind of hard to read up here. It says deliver exceptional employment experiences. And this is the one that has to do with districts being flexible and responsive to teacher feedback. I think the calendar is a great way that you guys can were able to show like that you talked to a lot of different people and got feedback from different people on that for next year. And this was also one that I feel like teachers have a lot of control over because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and you know that your day was 99% awesome, but that 1% is the part that sometimes you take home and share with other people. So we need to remember that when we're in the community and we're talking to our family and our online presence, that we're talking about all awesome stuff. I mean, we just saw so many kids and staff recognize today that those are the things that we're focusing on within our district and that we're sharing with other people. And so Caitlin is going to talk a little bit about kind of the day-to-day of how the program worked.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Haller. I teach at Carter Lake Elementary. I'm a second grade teacher, and this is my 11th year in the district. So each session, there were 6 sessions for about 5 hours held at UNO. Each session, we had guest speakers, some time for reflection. We worked with the book Heart, and then we had some time to work on our project. So guest speakers, at each session, we had the opportunity to speak or to listen to superintendents from all of the area MOAC districts that are represented. We also had some communications directors that were there, and they really talked on topics that teachers aren't super familiar with. So we had a superintendent talk on school finance. That's not something that teachers are familiar with, but it really helped us understand at a bigger picture what's happening within our districts. There was also a lot on communications, what happens kind of behind the scenes and how interconnected all of our districts are within the metro area. And then that social media and marketing, how they field those different things on social media and what goes out to the public. And we had the opportunity to hear from Dr. Morello, and she shared the Achieve magazine, which really sparked a lot of interest. We heard in the next session, a lot of people went back and took that to their superintendents or their administrators because it's such a great way to share really what's happening in our schools and in our classrooms, and a great way to showcase teachers and students with all the wonderful things they're doing. So that was very well loved. We also have time for reflection. Dr. Bruckner asks questions of us in between each session. How are things going? What would you like to see in our sessions? What would you like to hear about and learn about? And then she puts those all together for us to read and look at. And really, we took a lot of time to see what is it that our group of teachers is looking for in the teaching profession to recruit and retain teachers. And we compared them to those 5 shifts that Andrea talked about. And surprisingly enough, wages were really not spoken about. It was really about just having things met at my level and having things a little bit differentiated and having that ownership and being recognized, which we know that you guys did a wonderful job at tonight. The other thing that we did was we read Heart. So each letter stands for a topic there is happiness, engagement, alliance, risk, and thought. And so really it's fully forming your professional life as a teacher and as a leader. So we really focused in on how can we do that and then spread that within the capacity of our schools and our districts. So we are helping flip the conversation, retain those teachers, and maybe preventing those negative conversations that are happening in our spaces, but flipping them to focusing on that 99% that's positive. And then the last part of our day, really the overall goal was that as MOAC ambassadors, we each created a project. So our teams were comprised of 4 different educators. The goal was we needed to represent at least 2 districts. And so then we came up with different ways to flip that conversation. How can we get into spaces, talk to leaders, talk to administrators, talk to just the community about why education is great and why we should be here and the work that we're doing. So it was really wonderful to get to just be in a room full of educators that are very passionate about that. So here's some reflections about how MOAC impacted each of us and how we're carrying this experience forward into our school community.
I'll kind of go off what Caitlin said there. My own personal kind of reflection is that after every one of these 6 sessions that I got to leave, I left and my bucket was kind of filled back up, but just by working with teachers that, like Caitlin mentioned, we really didn't focus on that shift that was all about, how do we get more money? But everybody collectively thought about, what is within our control and what can we focus on to ultimately improve the lives of not only us as teachers, but then our students and everybody that we work with. So that was really, really awesome for me and really fulfilling. It was also very great to be able to work with other educators, and really through our discussions and through our reflections, really learned that a lot of the challenges that we face are the same challenges that other districts in the MOAC area are facing as well. And so to be able to come together and collaborate with them on potential solutions through our projects was a really great experience for me.
One big impact on me from doing this experience was just the connection with the superintendents. It's easy when they're in a different building and you don't see them on the regular to kind of see them on the business side of things, but we got to hear several different stories about how did each superintendent get into education. So many of them were teachers or administrators and worked their way up to being a superintendent. And you really got to see their heart for kids and for teachers, something that you don't always get to see in kind of the day-to-day business side of education. So it really closed that gap between teachers and district leadership.
And then also, we just took away the projects that all of the different groups shared, and we were able to share those ideas with our administrators. One of the great ideas was a group just created a Google form, very simple, that if you fill it out, it can go to any district, and it recognizes an educator for just being an outstanding educator. And then it shoots them an email and says, you've been recognized by this person. It shoots their administrator an email. And so just a pretty quick and easy way that's seamless to uplift those that are around us for the work that we do every day. Also, kind of like Tyler said, it was just such a fulfilling experience to get to be with all of those like-minded educators who really are out there fighting the good fight for education and excited about helping others get into this field. Overall, we would like to thank you for your time, and we would like to thank Dr. Murillo for allowing us to be the CB's MOAC Educational Ambassador, so we feel very honored to be elected for this position.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Not as much a question, just more a comment. It's really exciting to hear this from you guys. I mean, to hear about the collaboration between the different school districts. I think sometimes in these board meetings we get so focused on what's happening in our district, and it's really exciting to hear that sort of collaboration on, how can we improve this, shared commonality of, just teaching all around, and how we can, make it more attractive to more people to get in. It's exciting.
Well, I was just going to thank you all for participating, and I do have a thought and a question, actually. Many of the things that you talked about really are just come down to culture, the culture that's created in the school district, in the building, in your PLCs, in your hallways, in your classrooms. And I was listening to some of those things you were talking about, the shifts, and thinking about how those could be transferred to a lot of different work places outside of schools. But I had my question, as you were talking, I was recently, my daughter went through the exhibition process, the IB exhibition process in 5th grade. And I know that during the research, the students are asked to identify can't let it goes, things they learn in their research that are so powerful to them, they just can't let it go. I was wondering, put you on the spot, if there's something that you learned through the process that, you couldn't let go, that surprised you maybe.
Okay.
The 5th graders can do it.
So, the thing that surprised me the most, the superintendent of Millard, who I cannot remember his name, but he was John Schultz, thank you. He came in and he did a presentation on school finance. And I'm already kind of a numbers person, like as a science teacher, but I was just blown away with what I didn't know about school finance, both like where does the money come from? Where does the money have to go? And like that there's a formula for, and he was talking specifically about Nebraska, and I think it's a little different in Iowa. But I think it just showed me how much sometimes maybe I think I know that I don't know, and that maybe I should spend a little more time kind of looking into some of those other aspects of education that, they're not my day-to-day job, but I think it's worthwhile to know about those things and at least have, a moderate amount of understanding about that. And I just thought it was, you see like school finance is the topic and you're like, whoa. But it was really good and really interesting. And so that was kind of one of the weeks that I can still remember just kind of being like, just fixated on what was being discussed that day. So it was really cool.
Well, that also can shorten the connection between teachers and school board members, because we all have been through the experience of going to the Iowa School Boards Association convention and sitting through School Finance 101 for 3 hours, and then doing it again the next year because it was all too difficult to comprehend.
I think my biggest can't let go was learning about the legislation and how all of that happens in the comparison between Nebraska and Iowa, and just really learning how important it is for me to stay informed and for me to contact my legislators and really know what's happening. I know that we have gotten emails that kind of synthesize what's happening, and before I didn't really pay as much attention. And now it's an email that I make sure I read every week, so I know what's happening in our schools and I know what's happening with our kiddos and the families that we're with. And so I think that was one that really stuck with me, that I will continue to make sure I'm staying up on the different legislature that's getting passed or not.
I hate to do this, but I'm actually going to copy off Caitlin as well, because as we mentioned, multiple school district superintendents came and spoke with us, and that was actually kind of a reoccurring theme with all of the superintendents that they kept bringing up to us, where they mentioned to us, they said, the state legislators, they're tired of hearing from me. They want to hear from you. They want to hear who's in the classroom, and so that really has stuck with me, and it's helped me to be an ambassador for education and being an ambassador for our district and really advocate for ourselves and our teachers.
Thanks for entertaining my question.
Yes.
Let me put you on the spot.
I do want to say thank you for being a part and accepting the invitation, because I invited them, and I think first they were like, exactly what is this program? But they were really nominated, and as we begin to look for the right fit, because this is the first cohort, and it really come out of superintendents talking about how do we actively engage our teachers. And so from there, Dr. Bruckner kind of built this program, and it was really a great, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I think you did.
Yep.
And we're going to continue it and do a second cohort next year. So thank you. You guys represented Council Bluffs well, and I couldn't be prouder of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, on to the fun stuff. We have several resolutions this evening, starting with a second reading of policies. Is there a motion?
I can move to approve the reading policies and administrative regulations as presented, including policy 407, use of electronic observation and security equipment,
staff. 408, communicable diseases employees. 408.1, universal precaution regulations. 408.2, IDPH, table of reportable communicable and infectious diseases. 425, appropriate use of computer and computer networks and internet employees. 501, school attendance areas. 501.1, transfer of students from home attendance area regulation. 501.2, non-resident students. 501.3, student release during the school day. 501.4, student illness and injury. 501.5, interest requirements, evidence of age. 501.6, resident students. 503, foreign exchange students. 503.1, CSIET, standards for student exchange programs. 505, protection of pupil rights. 508, authorized interviews of students by non-school employees. 511, student discipline, suspension, and expulsion. 514, student immunization. 514.1, required immunizations. 515, special health services. 520, student records. 604, religion and the schools. 604.1, requests for exclusions from school programs. 605, religious holidays. 610, non-school team participation. 621, student guidance and counseling programs. 803, naming school facilities. 908, public gifts to schools. And 913, expected conduct at school-related activities.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Like Jill should be off the hook for making any more resolutions this evening. Any discussion on the second reading of policies?
No, and a lot of these had no changes, or they had minor wording changes due to state law wording or recommendations. So pretty simple.
And Ms. Shudak serves on the review committee.
Yes.
Nothing interesting
No.
to report, okay?
But this one was a pretty quick one.
Other than reading it.
Yes.
Yeah, making the motion. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
And online voting is on. Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the second reading of the policies has been approved. Next, we have a resolution to set a public hearing to consider extension of the instructional support levy. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move the board to direct the board secretary to set a public hearing on 6/27/23 to consider extending the instructional support levy for 5 additional years.
Second.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Clarification?
Mr. Wilson, will you provide some clarification on this?
Sure. So part of our levy that the board approves every April, a component of it is the instructional support levy. And our district gets roughly about $4.3 million in that levy. That is 100% spending authority. And so there's two ways to extend it. One is through a vote of the people, which would extend it 10 years. And then another one is that the legislature has allowed boards to extend it by a vote for additional 5 years. And I would say that most school districts in Iowa go that route. So this is a public hearing to have the board consider extending it, and there would be a vote on that night as well.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion has been approved. Next, we have a resolution to approve the 2022-2023 amended budget.
I'll move the board approve the amended 2022-23 budget as presented at the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the amended budget has been approved. Next is a resolution to approve an agreement with Iowa West Foundation for +1 pathway support.
I
I can move that the board approve the agreement with the Iowa West Foundation in support of our Plus One Pathways.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Dr. Brillo, would you like to give a little explanation on this one?
We really appreciate the partnership and the support that we receive from the Iowa West Foundation. Their support for our Plus One Pathways, they will be granting the district about, it's 280, I believe, 280,000 for the next school year. And those dollars will go for our students that will be achieving their associate's degree, their diploma, or their certificate at Iowa Western Community College. So we couldn't be prouder of the partnership and the support they have for the vision of the school that we're making post-secondary inescapable for all students. And I believe either in the June or July meeting, Brenda will be with us, and we'll do a presentation from Iowa West. I'm sorry, from the Iowa West Foundation, and super excited for her to come and share the vision of Iowa West, and also to be able to thank her publicly for her continued support of our district.
How many students do we have right now supported by the Plus One Pathways?
The Plus One Pathways, wow, we have lots in all areas. But the one that we're able to really bring into focus for our community is the ones that are graduating from Iowa Western. What we also have, though, is the students that are just in the pathway to achieve the credits of their freshman and sophomore year of college. But we also have students that take classes at DMAC and some other areas. So we have a lot of different strands, and we're continuing to build out those strands. We talked today about a social media strand. I believe, do I have that right, Ms. Comine? And so, I mean, just looking at student interest and where the jobs of the future are going to be, and ensuring that our students are ready to fill those jobs and to also build upon their education as they move forward to a four-year university.
Good.
Well, it's great that we are able to offer these opportunities to students at no cost to families, for college credit opportunities, which is wonderful. But it does come at a cost, so it's wonderful to have partners like Iowa West Foundation to help support it.
And probably I also should do a little background. I apologize for not starting in that direction, but we are changing the Potawatomi Promise to Aspire. So this is our last cohort of students that are in the Potawatomi Promise. So when we have the presentation from Iowa West Foundation, you will learn about their new goals and their background. And really Aspire is a college prep portfolio, and helping us increase the number of students that are moving through our Plus One Pathways.
Perfect. Any other questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes. Next, we have approval of flexible student and school support, FS3 program. Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors approve the Flexible Student and School Support, or FS3 program.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions on this resolution?
It is new for the board to see. Dr. Matthews might, if I don't give you enough explanation, she might. This is our new process for the PE waivers that the board does every year. So they've changed it a little bit, and if you'd like more information, I can have Dr. Matthews come up and explain. Dr. Matthews?
Good evening. So this is very similar to PE waivers you've seen in the past. The process for documenting and reporting is just a little bit different. So the state has allowed for flexibility in other areas. We are only looking at the PE waiver. Some of the others were world language, which we had already covered, and now the new Chapter 12 requirements don't even require that waiver. So really we are just looking at offering PE the same way that we have been for over a decade now, that instead of students taking it every other day for a full school year. They can meet that requirement by taking it every day for a semester, and this really does lead to those opportunities for our +1 pathways, so they can take more electives that are aligned to their pathways. They can do more work-based learning, be out at Iowa Western's campus when necessary. So it just provides that flexibility for choice with students. We still offer and teach PE every semester, and students can opt to take it both semesters if they would like.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call. Did you have
Mr.
some-
Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion carries. Next is a resolution to approve a contract with Northwest Evaluation Association, the NWEA, for MAP assessments. Is there a motion?
I can move we approve the contract for Northwest Evaluation Association NWEA MAP assessments.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this agreement?
You know, seeing how we just had a nice conversation about MAP assessments and how we think those correlate to ISASP and other assessments, I feel like it's great to be able to understand where we need to provide targeted coaching or supports for our schools and our classrooms using the assessments. So, very happy.
Any other discussion, questions?
Oh, and if you're a junior out there, you need to take these seriously. Any juniors, any sophomores listening right now, next year, it's important.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion carries. Not sure how many juniors are watching the school board this
Probably
evening.
not
but-
many.
Next, we have approval of a quote with Optimized Systems for Abraham Lincoln High School HVAC controllers. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move we approve this quote with optimized systems for the HVAC controllers at Abraham Lincoln High School.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just note that it's $41,350 for the installation.
And I feel like we're always constantly messing with controllers, softwares, monitoring systems for HVAC. Do we feel like these will do the trick? I mean, it's just it drives me nuts how much we spend on.
I think as technology continues to change, and I'm wondering, Dean, do you know how old the system was?
So what happened out at AL, so Optimize Systems, they're the company that we hired to do our commissioning at the middle schools. We also have hired them to help us ensure that all of our HVAC systems can essentially talk to each other through a software program. When they went out to AL, they found that the controllers that were out there were never set up by the previous vendor, who shall remain nameless at this point. And so this is in order to get these to communicate to the software so we can monitor the HVAC systems at AL.
How long ago was that those were installed?
A couple of years ago. Several years ago. Several, no, before Dr. Murillo.
Oh, it was when
Was that
the
anyway?
AL was remodeled.
Yeah.
Because when they were commissioning all those new systems.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion carries. Next is a resolution to approve Bloomer ERU unit replacement. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the plans and specifications for the Bloomer ERU replacement project as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And any discussion on this?
Suppose we can read things saying one of our two there at Bloomer, one failed. And those are the air handlers in the building. And the estimate for a new one is $384,000 with contingency fees and engineering fees. These are very expensive.
They are, and Bloomer was also one of our critical or one of the ones that were noted at the top when we did the facilities master plan. So we knew this was coming down the road. I think we bid it once, or we some way had it for the ESSER dollars. and then-
That was a bid on something else.
Okay.
This actually happened in addition to that,
In addition to
unfortunately,
that one.
yes.
And so this is going to be
Out of the
set
state
out
fund.
now. We're looking at approvals next year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to cause issues with the current unit we have?
Well, we're not having
Time.
summer school this year at
Right.
Bloomer. We're moving it to
Okay,
Longfellow.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just want to make sure there's two units, one's working. If they both fail, then we have a problem that we have to,
I mean, fall could be
to
hot,
fix
too.
very quickly.
And the plan is to pay for this out of the SAFE fund.
Safe fund.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Next, we have a resolution for our Securely renewal. Is there a motion?
I move that the board approves a 5-year agreement with Securely for web content filtering, home services, and e-hall pass as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
This just comes out of Pebble, right? Yeah.
How do our students like the electronic hall passes?
Or their parents.
Well, some like it, some do not, but but I think it's a good thing for us to have that so we can document how many times a student is in and out of a classroom. That's really important, that they don't, that we start tracking as their restroom breaks every class period and where are students going.
User-friendly? I've never used it before, so I didn't know if it was kind
It's
of
user-friendly?
a hassle to get the pass. You have to go through a lot of documentation, or is it pretty simple to get
Yeah,
into?
Mr. Hamilton?
Go to him.
I have never used it myself, but it's easy for students to get passes. It also makes it, like Dr. Murillo said, we're able to regulate students and let them know, like, they can only go during certain times of the day, certain times of the class, so it restricts them. It also makes it so they're not interrupting teachers when they're asking, because if they're on the list to be able to go whenever, as long as it's not during instruction, they can just put in and go, and then administrators or anybody else in the building knows that
No,
they're
they're out.
out and supposed to be where they're at.
And I suppose for the public, this also provides filtering of content at home or in the schools for all, what do we have, 11,000?
Devices.
Devices or something like that?
Yeah, as a parent, I receive an email, I don't know if it's weekly or once a month, whatever it is that shows me what my child has searched on the internet and what they've looked at. There's some other features that we're piloting now, but this is just for those services we currently offer.
Okay,
Cool, thanks.
thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion has been approved. Next, we have a resolution for approval on one-to-one plus annual subscription. Is there a motion?
I can move the board approves the 1-to-1 plus annual subscription of K through 12 technology management and help desk software as presented.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion or questions?
I'm assuming this is a wonderful thing for us. Perfect.
Especially the tracking
Thanks.
part?
Okay. Perfect.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Next is a resolution for approval on Brightly software contract. Is there a motion?
I can move we approve the Brightly Software 3-year contract with an increase of 3% annually.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I presume the 3-year contract gave us some kind of break versus a single-year contract?
No.
No?
No, it did.
Oh.
No, it did.
that
We
what
saved,
caused-
we ended up saving roughly $1,500 a year that they would have charged us extra on it. This locks us in, and this Brightly software is for our ticketing for any facilities issues, and I want to give a shout out to our new facilities director, Nick Olson. He's done a great job getting this thing up and running, and has also fine-tuned it so we can put preventative maintenance tickets in there so that people get these emails that says, okay, you've got to do this, that by this time. Then he and his assistant Aaron, they follow up with them every week. So it's been a great tool for us.
Great. Any other questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Ms. Shudek.
Yes.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Tripp.
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Next, we have a resolution for Council Bluffs Education Association MOU. Is there a motion?
I move the board approves the signed MOU with the CBEA as presented.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
From earlier, where we're moving the first workday to the 17th and then getting the 2 holidays?
Yes, that is correct.
Perfect. It seems that was met with excitement by at least the 3 teachers that presented, so.
We listened.
Good.
It helped to have the virtual days. That helped me make it happen.
Right, right. Any
Take
other
credit for
questions?
I'll take credit for it, right.
Any other questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Shudek.
Yes.
Mr. Arthur.
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Mr. Tripp.
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Next, we have approval of the revised 2023-2024 school year calendar that we learned about in the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll move we approve the revised school year calendar for the 2023-2024 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
And any discussion on the calendar? Further clarifying questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Tripp.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Shudek.
Yes.
Mr. Arthur.
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Next, we have approval of memberships with IASB, ISFIS, and the UEN. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the memberships in the Iowa Association of School Boards, the Iowa School Financial, ISFIS, and the Urban Education Network organizations for the 2023-2024 school years.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion on these memberships?
Yeah, what do these memberships provide to school?
Well, our IASB is a membership that our school board, it provides services from anywhere from legislative updates, any kind of legal question, any questions we have around a board meeting or setting public hearings. It really provides guidance, not only to, and trainings to our school board and support for me and my executive cabinet. ISFIS is a service or that is provided where Dean spends probably monthly, Dean. They have webinars and updates and any changes that we might have in the state law around our school finance. And then our UEN districts are, that is where we have the membership. Not only does it have superintendent to superintendent in the UEN districts, but it has job alikes. So there'll be a meeting monthly where Mr. Milbourne will meet with other HR directors from other UEN districts across the state. They'll do Zoom meetings. Same thing with communication, curriculum and instruction. And so it's really a great way to collaborate with other districts. So it really provides us kind of that peer-to-peer. And it's real similar to MOAC. We get the same job alikes as we work with MOAC across the river, but this really centers around the concerns, supports, and any new legislation that impacts us in Iowa.
Policy updates.
Policy
Yeah.
updates, all of that.
I know IASB and the UEN both have some lobbying activity. Does ISFIS have a lobbying arm too? Or is this that run primarily through?
Well, Margaret Buckton is actually one of the principals of ISFIS,
okay.
so it does kind of bleed over.
Okay.
Her partner in there, Larry Siegel, is arguably the one person in the state who understands school finance better than anybody. So he's a great resource to draw upon.
Do we still get, I think I asked this last time, we still get that insurance, there was some sort of insurance break you used to get when you had IASB membership, right?
Not that I'm aware
I
of.
remember what it was. Okay, maybe they got rid of that. There was some sort of insurance break we used to get.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It
Was,
was the
uh,
funding, insurance, or
Yeah, so we get insurance through EMC, and they partnered with IASB, and if they have a good year, they return some of the premium. But I think, as we've seen the derechos and the hurricanes and everything,
hasn't
it's a
worked
very
that
hard
way.
market, so we're not getting that money right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes.
Mr. Arthur.
Yes.
Ms. Shudek.
Yes.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Mr. Tripp.
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion to approve the memberships has been approved. Next, we have a resolution to revise the early retirement incentive criteria that we approved at an earlier board meeting. Is there a motion?
I move that the board approves 2 additional employees for the early retirement incentive by waiving the criteria of meeting the rule of 88 within the district as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. And any discussion, questions? I'm sure there's probably some clarification needed for this.
Yes.
Dr. Murillo, do you just want to provide a brief summary?
Sure. When we had the board approve back in, I believe it was April, or was it May? April? Yeah. We really had Mr. Milborn and his team working with a committee around something that teachers were really interested in us offering, and that is if we hit the rule of 88 and they had sick days, could we then pay out a portion for each day that they had? And as we got together, as the committee got together, they really began to look at the Rule of 88 in Council Bluffs. And what they weren't sure about is some of the other variables, like how would we be able to validate years worked in another district or years worked out in another district out of state even. And so they landed, because of really the timeline, because remember, we were we had to meet the certain date of the Rule of 88 in the district. And the board set up that we could offer 25 to the first 25. And we had around, I think, 8 or 10 that really did get their paperwork in. What we soon found was there was 2 more that met the Rule of 88, but not in Council Bluffs. And so since we had 8 and we had 25 slots, and then we met with, Mr. Milborn has met with both, I met with one, and we really looked at number 8, where it says we have the right to waive requirement or conditions if we found that maybe after we made the decision, is there something that we might want to give consideration to? So being that there's 2 more that met the Rule of 88 but not in Council Bluffs, would we give consideration, would the board give consideration with granting them to be a part of this retirement incentive? And so what I wanted to ask the board is, with this condition of Rule 8, would you give consideration to the 2 additional staff members who have put in, one, I believe, had all but 10 years, so that meant they were, just 10 years short, but they've been teaching for 10. And the other one, I believe, was short about 10 or 11 years, and somewhere in 2 different states. But we can verify that they did meet the Rule of 88. With that being said, if you give that consideration this year, if we are afforded the opportunity to do this next year again, we will know the deadline's coming, so we'll be able to work backward a little sooner. Remember, we were also in negotiations at the same time. And then we can set the criteria and ensure that we won't have to come back to the board again and be able then to ask for a waiver. I know the board in the past, when Dr. Bruckner was here, offered up to 25 and you had 27, and the board allowed the extra 2 to be a part of that incentive. So what I'm just asking is, would the board give consideration tonight to the 2 additional that did meet the Rule of 88, but not all in Council Bluffs, but did meet the deadline of March 31st, inquiring to retire and asking for it?
And one of the employees ended up with 89 with the rule of 88, and the
Yes.
other one's 98, so
Yes.
it's not like they're.
Not like they haven't
Right-
put in
right
years.
there, right.
And we've been very, very fortunate to have them part of our teaching staff.
Right.
I remember from the presentation that night that Mr. Milbourne was very transparent that the group had not even thought to consider that when they, of including years outside of the district in the Rule of 88. It just wasn't something that crossed their minds. Now, knowing this moving forward, I'm assuming that, next year, if this comes back to the board, that would be a consideration. We would consider including that in the agreement, and that there would be some sort of criteria for understanding how the district is going to account for the years outside of the district, so that it's clear to CBEA members what the criteria are, how you validate the criteria.
That is correct. And I think the other peace of mind we can have is going forward, we won't be in this small timeline where I felt like we were rushing. If you remember when Mr. Milbourne came.
10 days.
We had
We had
to
10
have it.
days,
Yeah,
we had to
we had
have
10
it. It
days.
wasn't like, it was something,
Yeah.
so sometimes when you rush, you don't have time to think everything through. And I do think there'll be some kind of criteria where they're at least in the district for 20 years, plus their age, and then they could reach, something like that. We'll think through the criteria, we'll look at other models that are in the state or other districts, and then be able to ensure that we can verify that they've met the Rule of 88.
I guess my question was just, had we had more time, had we thought about these things, would we have set it up differently to begin with? And if that's the case, then, having this Section 8, the right for the board to waive that requirement or a condition in the agreement, it makes sense that we are revisiting that now. But if the group was not going to lend consideration to that, and they wouldn't have changed their opinion, that influences, how we might think about it.
Yeah, and I think the group would have thought of it differently, because I know when someone did present this back to the teachers, they stated as the Rule of 88 and did not make the statement that it had to be inside the Council Bluffs schools. So in their mindset.
There was confusion
There
from
was
the
a little bit
beginning,
of confusion. But again, the committee did a great job to get this in place in the amount of time. And I do think that moving forward, we can slow it down, get it thought through, get it worked through, and be really, I guess, very, very tight around what the criteria and the conditions will be.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion has been approved. That brings us to our consent agenda, which includes approval of a school-based therapy agreements, approval of special education contracts, personnel actions, and claims and accounts. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the consent agenda items? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes. And the consent agenda has been approved. That concludes our business, and thank you all for your time this evening.
And do you think we still have time to go to the Early Learning Center? Should we reschedule it?